Johnson City, Tennessee, I caught a hold on before the sun. I hear my baby calling mine and I know that she's the only one. If I die in Raleigh, at least I will die free. You rock me, mama, like a wagon. Rock me, mama, in a way. Yeah.
Go figure. The American Embassy is the largest one out of all the embassies that I've seen in the city so far. Of course. Nice little park back here on the, well, at least on what seems to be part of the property of Parliament Hill. I can't tell if if it's divided by the river or not, or if, no, that would make sense of it. Yeah, I think this is probably, it's just a park on the, it looks like it's part of Parliament Hill. It might just be an attachment to the Chateau Hotel over there. Anyway, good afternoon, really it is, not morning. I spent the morning, well, getting all my things reassembled after sleeping in that memorial park for about, well, the night before I got 3 hours sleep. Last night I got 4 hours sleep, and then I snoozed a little bit more when I went down to the Rideau Center to charge my appliances and use the washroom. And well, I'll just say it hasn't been the greatest of mornings, but could be worse things. So, firstly, I didn't mention this in the last video, but underneath, I have some layers on. Underneath as well, I have a, I don't know if you can see. Well, actually, probably that's better. I'm wearing a crotchless slip-on, fishnet slip-on. I bought it, ordered it online, just for myself, as I like the design of it. When I put it on, I thought it looked good on me, and I also, for purposes relating to if I get a job as, if that car will ever pass, and stop revving its motor, or its engine, well, technically, okay, whatever, non-mechanic, if I get a job as a strip performer, just to have on me. And, well, it's been working pretty well, and especially as a layer to keep me warm through and throughout, as it covers my entire body except, well, my nether regions, so. But, one problem. Well, with other layers over top of it, it's kind of hard to maneuver. So, I'm gonna spare you the gross details. Just, be very careful when you use the washroom with one on. No matter what type of genitalia you have. So yeah, that wasn't fun. This video is going to be a little bit different. Well, in a sense, and I mean like a very little bit of difference. So right now I'm just going to be getting onto a bridge. And where that bridge. One moment, please. Okay, now that that's passed, so if you can see over there, that is Gatineau, Quebec. It's the neighboring city to Ottawa. It's not as big as Ottawa, but it geographically speaking, it comes close in terms of its borders. It's almost the size of Ottawa, but not quite. I figured since the park that I slept in was so close, why not actually go exploring into Quebec? If it wasn't clear, this video isn't going to be titled Exploring Ottawa. This will be the first part in a series that's pretty well the same exact, it's literally the same exact concept, just we can call it a spin-off series, and I'm sure for however long my travels go on, there'll be many more like this. This will be the first episode of Exploring Gatineau. Now, this is actually quite exciting for me personally. Okay, so here's the thing. I haven't been to the Canadian province of Quebec since I was like maybe... Oh, that's an interesting piece of public art. Since I was maybe... Of course the wheel falls off. Why wouldn't it? I'm just baffled that you didn't disappear into thin air. Or disappear out of thin air, whatever. Anyway, I've been to Quebec since I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. And that was when I was still living in Canada at a young age before I moved to the United States. And I remember nothing of it. I think we passed through Gatineau, but we didn't stay in the actual city. Well, me and the people I was living with. We didn't stay in the city. The only reason we went to visit was because we knew some people who were living in a cottage over there in the more rural areas, closer to Gatineau, but not exactly in the city limits. And I remember pretty well nothing of it. And also, once I actually get over the connecting bridge between the provinces, it is going to be very, well, I'll just call it a historic experience for me, as, well, some things that I've done over the summer have been historic for me, but in certain regards, but this will probably be the most for me because, I have not been outside of the province of Ontario since 2017, which is when I moved back to Canada from America. And two, this will actually be, so I'm sure I've explained this before, but I'm sure if you know anything about Canadian history and geography and Canadian culture, you know that Quebec, in the southern half at least, is predominantly French-speaking, or more specifically, they speak Quebecois French, because the Quebecois ethnic group is the main populace there in the south, in terms of white heritage. And there would be, I guess, in terms of indigenous and white mixture would be Quebecois, Métis. But anyway, it will be the first time in my like older years, like me being older, an older teenager or an adult, that I have ever actually been in a place that does not predominantly speak my native language, English. So that would be pretty interesting. I don't expect it'll be, well, I'm sure it'll be a culture shock somewhat, but, and again, I mean, it's not, I'm not going to be surprised to hear French speakers, because, well, with my research of geography and things of the sort, and culture, and, well, I've for years been interested, I've loved studying geography, had a passion for it, but, even so, even with my knowledge of different cultures of the world, and also language variants of the world, I've never, actually been in a place, obviously, I've been surrounded by multiculturalism at many points where I've lived, in certain aspects, throughout my life, and just from putting myself in, well, different cultural environments and trying to actually gain an understanding of other traditions and practices of the world. So there's been that element of what I've done. But I've never actually, like, so I've obviously been surrounded by varying languages, and also varying dialects of English, but this is the first time that I'll ever actually be in a place that predominantly doesn't speak any dialect of my own native tongue. So, that is pretty, I find that very exciting. Not trying to over exotify or trying to over fetishize, or trying technically to fetishize the culture. But it is very interesting. That is an amazing view. I'm going to swap the camera. Yeah, it might be a little bit odd. It might be a little distorted by the branches of these trees, but I think you can get a pretty good view of, well, a lot of downtown Ottawa and the Parliament property, and a lot better view of the Ottawa Channel. Yeah, okay, let me get across this bridge, and while I'm getting across the bridge, I'm going to talk about a few things quick, but I maybe want to save the battery because I'm at 54%. God, my phone has been dropping like crazy in terms of battery whenever I use it, so yeah, let me just start walking. Damn, a much better view of, well, what is, once I walk a little further, what will be Ontario. Amazing view from this point as well of the center southern half of well, Gatineau, or as this district that I'm going to be entering in Gatineau is called, or as it's called, Hull, Hull, which actually used to be, that was the original name of the city of Gatineau. It was originally called Hull, but then they changed the name to, I guess they changed it to a French originated name, and well, I guess they just decided to name this Southern District, which is the second largest district of the city other than well, the downtown. I guess they just decided to name wooden platform. I don't feel very safe to... Okay, I wanted to, if they had a bonus, to try and pay them something, or not even a bonus, just something to collect tips in. But other people were tipping, and I've given a lot of my own money away the last little while walking in the downtown area, so right now I can't afford to do that. I want to, but I can't. So, yeah, all those songs, all the copyright, it belongs to them. Very talented musicians. And the beginning of this video is in Byward Market. Also, if I was, as I went back there, there are points where I was pronouncing it Bayward Market, and then I would just switch randomly to Byward Market. Just so we're clear, it's Byward, B-Y-W-A-R-D. I'm pronouncing it wrong if I'm saying it Bayward. There's no A. And even if there wasn't, well, just the way it's pronounced, at least locally, that's not the proper, pronunciation. I'm officially in Quebec. So long, Ottawa. Don't worry, I'll be heading back there. I'm going to dress because I feel that I should realize this, or at least look at it. Two things. One, a few days ago, when I was down in Searville, the Searville district of Ottawa, by myself, I was at a restaurant, and there was a karaoke night going on, and one singer came up to the mic, and they did a very, in my opinion, bad performance, but I thought for a minute that they were purposely trying to sound distorted with their voice, purposely trying to do like a bad performance, and I found it very funny. I took a short clip video of it, not of them, just of... Sorry, what?
I asked if you are a German.
Oh, sorry.
From Germany.
Am I from...
You speak German?
Oh, no, sorry, I don't speak German.
Okay, then have a message.
You too. Okay, I wouldn't find that odd if she was asking... Okay, maybe they speak German and they're not very good at English, and they were needing some help with communication to get like directions or something. Or I would be more inclined to believe that if they were actually asking other people if they spoke German. I don't know why she singled me out as being a potential candidate for speaking German. Maybe it's because of being blonde and blue-eyed, but I am not tall in the slightest. I know that's a German stereotype. I'm not trying to general. You get what I mean? Yeah, that's the stereotypical German appearance. Really just Central Western European appearance in terms of ethnicity, but anyway, I deleted that video because it occurred to me that I might very well have been being ableist during, well, that whole encounter. I didn't mean to be, and I just had to check myself on that, because now, obviously, I don't know, is the thing. I don't know if they were purposely... The only reason I think it could have been they actually had difficulty with articulation, or more so vocalization, would be because of what someone who was with them said while they were there. And so I realized, oh, damn it, they might very well have actual difficulties with speaking or vocalizing. So I deleted the clip, but and obviously now, to be frank, even though I do apologize, like, on my behalf, like, I think it was wrong of me to do it if it was, well, if they were doing the best that they could, which is what matters. In my opinion, as long as you're trying with whatever you're doing, at least in terms of artistic creation, then that counts, or a large portion of it. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to turn out good, and I don't think that their performance was good. I'm just going to say that right now, because I'm not going to give them false praise whether they have a disability or not, because to me, that's actually even more ableist, or that's even more, well, that is ableist, and it's false praise, and I feel that's very demeaning to anyone. It doesn't matter if they have a disability or not. Giving someone false praise is very, very demeaning. You should be honest with them about your thoughts with it, and they can take some form of, like, constructive criticism away from it, or not. Of course, that's their opinion, and, well, there's nothing wrong with that. And they're able to create their own art as they choose. Obviously within limitations, of course, but... Anyway, so... I do obviously feel bad about actively finding it funny, like... Well, obviously, I didn't think the performance was good, but I don't... If they weren't trying to be purposely... purposely trying to botch the song, then I give them props for actively trying. Well, major props for trying to actually, well, to attempt to sing it. And that should count, at the very least, for something. But again, that doesn't mean I'm going to give them false praise, so I apologize for that. I don't even need to apologize to... I'm apologizing to literally no one right now, just a camera. So I just reflected on that, and I just thought it was a shitty thing for me to do. Now, obviously, again, that's not saying anything against offensive humor. It's just, well, that wasn't a very well-constructed one. It wasn't even, well, a constructed joke of any kind. I just found it funny. But anyway, another thing. God, hair, get out of my face. Another thing would be, great, what was that other thing? God, I am groggy right now. Let me think. Got it. So, as I've been saying about... As I've been discussing my whole existential / morality crisis, I know, I'm sure you're sick of hearing those words by now. So am I. I really am. As I've been reflecting on things day in and day out, there's a fallacy in my logical thought process that I realized, which actually, ironically, relates specifically to logical thinking. So I've said before how my emotional states, what I feel connected to, heavily relies on critical thoughts and like what I logically feel to be morally the best option or potential best option for something. And well, yeah, I've plainly stated that, and I stated the main reason for why, and I've stated before, I believe that I believe that you should go with your logical thought process on anything and not just entirely rely on what you feel in terms of your emotional reaction. Yeah, obviously your emotional state is influenced by your logical thinking, for many people at least, but in critical thought process, but there are many who just go completely based on like a neurotic feeling. They completely go based on reaction, like a very based on reactionary impulse from feelings, which I think is can be very detrimental and is not the best thing to do. And yeah, I've stated that before. That's something that I believe, that you should go with logical reasoning on everything, and that doesn't mean be a robot. You can have feelings and think critically, but something that I guess a bit of a, well, technically my whole morality crisis is just filled with cognitive dissonance on my part. This is some major cognitive dissonance, it seems, that I didn't realize until now. That I hope you can hear me well enough over the wind, and I hope my hand is blocking out any distortion from it, or any disruption in the speaker, or in the audio quality. God, this is a busy bridge. Anyway, it didn't fully occur to me that if I believe that you shouldn't go with things just based purely on emotional feeling and neurosis, then I've been very hypocritical, because that's what I've kind of been doing, as I said, that, well, in a sense, in terms of where I'm headed, and why I felt I had to leave Toronto in the first place, it was because emotionally things didn't feel right anymore. Even with my logical thought process, emotionally it didn't feel right to me. So I've come to terms with the fact that it's not, and I even said this before leaving the college videos, that maybe as well, like many portions of my actual logic seem to be flawed from my own perspective now. And I've fully come to accept that it's not just some, it is all. That it's not just it emotionally, it was never really even just emotionally it doesn't feel proper anymore. It's that logically, like intellectually, to me, all of my ethical beliefs and philosophies don't feel right, logically, in many regards, in pretty well all forms. And even though I still go by them for my everyday thought process in some manner, like for my interactions and for my social interactions and what I deem I should do in that moment, mostly, it just, the logic still doesn't seem to make sense anymore. So it's still very much a crisis of morality and existentialism as of right now, and human nature. But anyway, sorry. It's not for as wide as the bridge is, even though one side is for a bike path. I didn't expect too many people to be walking across it. Anyway, I just thought I'd say that. That I've really come to terms with that. Still not making me want to turn around and hop ship back to Toronto. No way in hell at the moment. It's still just as bad. It's just my issues are still there. There's still a problem, and I'm still wanting to go experience things in the world. It's just how they were presenting themselves in the first place. It just wasn't what I thought it was, if that makes sense. I don't know. Psychological, philosophical mumbo jumbo. You get the point. God, again, I'm gonna flip the camera around for a second. Look at that. That view. For as much as I despise you, your exterior is pretty. That's exactly what I said to the last one who tried to hit me. Haha, bazinga. That was the cringiest joke I've made in a while. And over there is actually quite nice as well. That's another connecting bridge at a different part of what I believe is the new Edinburgh district over there. So yeah, let's actually get into Gatineau and look around. Alright, so the first thing I'm greeted to once entering Gatineau is an exact replica of that copper 3D aerial view map of downtown Ottawa and the southern half of Gatineau. And again, I'm just left asking why. This doesn't even really help for navigating Gatineau, because this is the only part of Gatineau that is visible. Why? Well, there we go. I've officially set foot in Quebec. First time, and am walking through Quebec for the first time in years. And if I was, well, around 5 or 6, the first and only time I ever came to Quebec. Then, first time in a decade. Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing that's different from, at least, just, I guess, not, well, architecturally, yes, somewhat, but just design-wise, what's different from Ottawa and all of Ontario is these, well, stoplight systems, or just the lights, how they're designed themselves. I don't know if this is just something that is common in Quebec. I'll have to actually get seeing more of the city itself to know and maybe actually try and speak to people about it. Or maybe it's just this design is common only in Gatineau, but it's, instead of it being vertical, how the lights are set up, they're horizontal, and they have 2 red lights on the same lighting system instead of 1, and the green and yellow are just placed in between. I have no idea why. I mean, obviously, I'm sure it works just as well. I wouldn't, unlike the actual, like, the roundabout systems that were mainly in Orleans, the Orleans district of Ottawa, with the blinking lights instead of these crossing indicators. These digital crossing indicators had the digital lights instead that you hit, and it would signal to traffic. It would blink, and the oncoming cars were supposed to just be wary of it for when someone would be crossing. In my opinion, they probably work better than that. So they'd work just the same. Literally, I think most people would be able to understand this system just the same as any of the traffic lights over in Ontario. And the rest of Canada, for that matter, because every bit of footage I've seen from other provinces, and even in the territories of street views when I've looked on Google Maps, yes, I'm that much of a geography nerd. You gotta realize, there are points in my life where I've had a lot of free time, and I have gotten very, very bored. No, I was not that bored where I was specifically analyzing in depth. Okay, thanks. Wind, don't go fucking American Beauty on me. That piece of, what is that? That piece of, styrofoam wrapping of some kind is not as intriguing as a paper bag blowing gracefully in the wind. Okay, I'm not even gonna bother to try and remember what the exact lines were from that film. Fantastic film, but anyway, or at least in my opinion. Oh, another view again. Parliament. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, from what I've seen of other traffic light systems across the country, from Google Maps or just online images, I have not seen any resembling this. I don't even recall seeing ones exactly like this in, well, seeing as Quebec has the most, I'd say, well, okay, let's say the most in terms of non-problematic cultural traditions, in terms of European traditions that aren't in and of themselves like colonialist, which there's much of white culture that isn't rooted in colonialism, but it's been used for colonial and racially dividing purposes. You get what I mean. I don't recall seeing lights like this, so yeah, that's something. I don't recall seeing lights like this in Europe from imaging of it, of different countries throughout Europe. I don't know why I chose to say it like that. Okay, I'm gonna get it ways up that way and see how I actually get into more of the more of a, I guess, busier section of the Hall district. Alright, since I can't obviously read French, and even more so Quebecois French, this building is either a hospital from the looks of it, or just a standard office building for, well, I don't know what company, maybe. Well, usually telemarketing agencies don't have facilities this big, but the name of this place is just Quebec, or at least on the front. It's literally just Quebec. Maybe it's a citizenship granting agency or an immigration agency of some kind. And also, they just happen to have Almighty Cthulhu's more lazy and sluggish and disowned half-brother on the side of it. And also Stephen King's universe turtle, but they're gay. Oh yeah, and also a very, very angry looking walrus. God, they look very... I've never... Those are the eyes of, like, pure, unadulterated fury. Like, this thing wants to kill me. Never mind, I spoke too soon. Holy hell. I have stumbled upon another area of very incredibly detailed mural work on the sides of buildings. This whole side here looks genuinely a lot more like some of the other ones in some of the murals in alleyways and around the sides of buildings. In Ottawa, it looks to be a more indigenous influenced artwork or cultural artwork with more, well, symbolic of spiritualism in that sense. And animal spirits of the sort. This here is probably, yeah, this is probably a hospital. I mean, that's a giant, looks to be a giant bone statue. If not, I don't know what the hell that is. Nice design of stairs. But that impresses me the most. That is an incredible, it's a deer, or at least I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a deer. Just damn. Whoever constructed that, they are incredibly talented, or a group of people. It looks like they made it out of different... Oh my god, is it recycle bins? Unused recycle... That is... It's plastic, isn't it? Or it's some form of recyclable material. Or it's some form of plastic, it looks like, that's been reconstructed just into this art piece. That's so neat. Then again, though, if it falls off, or pieces do fall off, it's not going to decompose, so you would actually have to... Well, I mean, hey, you can just place it back up, or just try and recycle it into something else. But yeah, that is incredible, in my opinion. Once again, incredible mural artwork. I don't know specifically who those two characters are, or people, and what they're supposed to represent. It could either be of the Indigenous residential schools, or possibly of... I mean, I don't know from the design. I can't tell if it's meant to represent maybe the Holocaust, possibly. I don't know, but it is damn beautiful. It's incredibly well made. I'm not gonna take any major guess on what it's, like, who those are. If I don't know, like, what, I'm assuming, like, I don't know, if I don't know what it's, like, supposed to be representing in terms of, like, cultural significance, I'm not gonna say it right now. Okay, this doesn't, okay, maybe this isn't a hospital. It might be either an employment center or, again, maybe an immigration center. It's a government building, that's for sure. This is just a larger road. Yeah, I still don't... I'm trying to find a more busy area of Hull. I might need to ask someone. Oh, yep, and just another instance that I'm in Quebec. Alright. I did not pronounce that right at all, I guarantee it. Yeah. Okay, on to, back to aimlessly wandering this district. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Where that somewhere is, I don't know. Okay, so the stonework, in terms of, like, the road design and the sidewalks changed. Most of it was cobblestone going around, well, a ways up here. And there was just cement road, but now there's, well, I don't know what specifically type of stonework this is, but it's more of a squared pattern. This, from what I saw on a sign over there, it said, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but it was along the lines of Centre Culturel, which I think I can deduce from that that means cultural center, or some form of cultural center for either the main cultural center of the city or just for the district. It's still quite, well, again, from here exactly where I'm going. And again, do I really ever? It's quite dead out though in this area. There's not a lot of activity, except for the very microaggressive, or not microaggression, but technically, the passive aggressive wind that is fine enough on the ground level, but the flags are having a hell of a time. The area damn well looks, it's very peaceful. Very peaceful. Sense of calm I feel in this area. And god damn, that mural is incredible. And it looks like it's blues cultural inspired. Blues and jazz music. And over there it has some amount of hip-hop influence, it looks like. God damn. That is stunning. And they've even done the guarding blocks for that block off that portion of the road from vehicles. Damn. Okay, once I get to a bit more of a busier area where I find something to do, I'm gonna, I guess, start talking about maybe one or two things that I want to discuss, as typical with these videos. But yeah, I'll see you once I actually find that and do something other than along with the the talking. I'm probably gonna get something to eat because I'm hungry again, as I tend to get quite often now that I think about it, and thirsty, quite thirsty. If it's indicated by any, if that wasn't apparent by, well, the video of me, well, the night that I had to go to the hospital, walking through Old East Ottawa district because I was getting dehydrated and felt severely dehydrated. I was severely thirsty, or very thirsty. And it would have gone severe at some point, most likely. God damn, wind, will you give it a rest? I know you and God are probably having a hell of a time up there. I mean, you're probably angry because all of his children were screaming at the top of their lungs through megaphones in Byward Market the other night. But, yeah, whatever. I don't know where that joke was going. Yeah. And I had water earlier that day. I did. Maybe I just have an enlarged thalamus or something. I don't know. A ring in Ottawa. Police do it. A ring of what exactly? If you're talking about a ring of corruption, then you're spot on with that. Whew. I am full. So in this area here, this is, from what I looked at, I just re-looked at the map. This really is, I guess, just the, main, hub center of Hall, or the Hall district of Gatineau. And I just ate at that restaurant down there called believe it's called Astro Bistro. And I also just applied for a job there. I left my resume with them. So, yeah, that's 2 resumes down so far in almost 2 whole days. Yeah, I've gotten very sidetracked. But this is a very nice, just hilly subdivision in this part here. It's interesting. Subdivision surrounded by, well, a few skyscrapers. Not a whole slew of them, but a few. Over on the other side there is, well, Ottawa. And, yeah, it's just really nice. These are really interestingly designed homes. Brick walling, and this one's more of a square architecture. These ones are more just townhome style. But I like the dingy red brick color against the somewhat grayish black wood paint. It's very nice. But anyway, so let me cross real quick. Oh, thank God. That was the most dangerous thing I've ever attempted to do in my life. So while my phone is at percentage it's at right now, I'm going to talk about I guess 3 things while I can. Go over them as best I can. One of them, I couldn't remember if I like shortly addressed it in, oh, excuse me, in the psychological manipulation video. I quickly just looked back and skimmed through the first bit to see. I don't think I did. And if I did, it was really brief. These goddamn memory issues. Screwing with that. But that'll just be for one of them, if I actually even touch on it. Because, with how my memory is, I usually go off on something and then, well, get sidetracked with other things, and then forget to actually, address it. Wow, this is a thin sidewalk. Very thin. Okay. Okay, so considering with the amount of protests that happened yesterday in Ottawa, probably some of them are still going on today, I don't doubt. I guess I will speak about the first gaggle of, well, demonstrators I saw outside of the bank at Queen Street in the downtown area of Ottawa. Again, conveniently enough, well, interesting that I'm talking about Ottawa. Well, this is not pertaining to the city, just experiences in Ottawa while in Gatineau at the moment. And what are you? What the? Oh, are you an actual? Are you some form of? You're not an ATM. What the heck are you? I have not seen one of these before. Is this for meters on cars, for like time slots when they're available to be parked here? I have no clue. But that is interesting. If anyone in the comments, if anyone lives in Gatineau and knows what that is, or just lives anywhere with something like that and knows what that is, please tell me. Anyway, with all the demonstrations, the first one I saw was by a group of abortion abolitionists, or otherwise known as just, they were anti-abortionists, or they were just anti-abortion. Okay, where have I walked to? Oh, I'm right behind there. Okay, that's interesting. There's a bit more social life that's coming out as the evening's getting closer. Speaking of which, I want to get back to the bridge just to get a shot of the sunset over the channel. Let's go this way. Again, very nice stonework along here. Oh man, a steeple down there. So anyway, I think I'll just talk about those abortion protests. They weren't making any big ruckus or anything of the sort. They were peaceful protesters, which again, in my logical belief, I don't care what your philosophical or political stance is, ideological position. You should have the right to protest and say what you want, no matter what it is, unless it gets to the point of harassment, like verbal harassment. And no, there's a difference between calling someone something once and harassing someone, unfortunately. But, so, oh, that's interesting. So the bikes can ride with the cars in the same lane, and also coming from the opposite direction on this narrow patch of road? Okay. Never seen that before. So, in my opinion, you have the right to say whatever it is you want. Protest what you want as long as you're being peaceful. It doesn't matter what your cause stand. Obviously, to me, yes, like, socially, it matters what your cause is, but legally, you need the right to speak. Or at least I logically feel you do. Without being physically assaulted or harassed yourself. Like, verbally harassed. But, that being said, my stance is that their views on abortion are, for logical reasons for me, are complete bullcrap. And, oh, that's sad. Condemned house. In the middle of the suburbs. Well, hopefully it gets put to good use someday. Or rebuilt. Or, well, remodeled, I guess, if it's still standing. So, yes, I think their stance on the matter... Okay, obviously I don't know every single individual person in that group who was demonstrating. Sorry. Went onto the little garden stone divider here. Anyway, why I think I don't know every individual person in the group, know what every individual take on the matter is. All I know is that they have the same ultimate goal, or at least unless any of them are overtly histrionic and just doing it because someone has pressured them into it, or they actually care about, or they overly care about the other group members' thoughts of them. If they didn't, I don't know. But for at the moment, I'm going to assume that, well, I mean, I'm not going to say, I think it's fair to say from when I was watching them, it seemed, let's just say that okay, even if one of them doesn't fully agree, they're still contributing to the ultimate, like, want of the goal in some way. So, they all were standing in protest for the same goal of abolishment. This is a downward incline. Yeah, I gotta remember that once you get into Quebec, it gets a lot hillier than Ontario. I guess that starts right here at the southernmost point. Is Gatineau the southernmost point of Quebec? I think so. Okay, never mind. So, therefore, the abolishment of the medical practice of abortion, for those of you who don't know, it's procedure done to extract a fetus from within the womb of a woman or anyone who is capable of giving birth, and also capable of harboring a growing fetus cell. Now, I think many of you know, so in terms of, that's the medical procedure. It's often performed by, well, it is performed by a gynecological specialist. I believe the specific name usually for the ones who, the branch of gynecology that performs the surgeries are optometry. Obstetricians, I'm pretty sure, are the ones who deal with childbirth procedures and abortion. I believe that's their name, but they're the sector of gynecology. Anyway, aside from knowing the medical procedure, I think a lot of you know more condemned houses. Okay, this is a bit of a more sadly run down or foreclosed suburban area. Almost said suburbial again. Just so used to saying that word. And you might be one of the reasons why. Fucking condos. Not to say you aren't good living spaces, but well, most likely the reason behind you being here, when there's ample, well, at the very least, seemingly just a suburb that was most likely at least standardized middle class. You were probably put in here to extract wealth from the land. Anyway. And that, well, obviously that doesn't automatically make people have to leave their housing, but anyway, siphoning possible business from maybe certain other people around here who might have owned, well, it might have been real estate operators or anything of the sort. Anyway. Okay, this is a bit of, there's the bridge that I was on earlier. This road got a lot busier. Oh, by the way, that building, which you can see from, well, the other side in Ontario and Ottawa, and from the bridge, is the Canadian, well, it's a museum of some kind, the Canadian Grounds Museum? No, it's, oh God, can I not remember one thing? Can I have not brain fog for like 2 fucking minutes? Okay. It's a museum. It might have been called the Canadian Conservatory Museum, which might house military displays of some kind. I don't know, I'll have to pass by it again. Anyway, back to abortion. I think most of you know the arguments against the procedure, mainly from, and I don't want to generalize, there are those who don't believe in a higher entity of any kind, or don't follow a religious belief, and still are against the practice of abortion. But the general idea is, most of you know the arguments are like what's now being called, well, actually, from what I've heard, seems to be a newer term. I don't know if it was used in the past, but infanticide is what I've heard more recently. The killing of, well, I don't want to even say killing, because that's really not, from my stance, the right word. Well, I mean, technically, okay, after a certain trimester period, maybe you could count it as killing. And I don't even want that to sound harsh, it's just from like a technical standpoint, but there are those who consider it infanticide, killing of an unborn baby. There are those who think it is against God in terms of more Christian or Jewish or Islamic beliefs, is where it's more predominant, in terms of the belief that it is a sin against the divine creator, and especially in the branch of Christianity, Catholicism, in many regards. It's not me dragging all of Catholic culture, it's just, I'm just saying one of the bad aspects of it. Okay, 2 people had to rev their motors and the throttles going down the road in opposite directions, as if it'll make their dicks and tits grow any larger than they already are. Which, I don't, kink in my neck. Well, this explanation is turning out fucking fantastic. Am I right? Probably gonna take that way back. So, the argument is that it's the killing of an unborn baby. The child that is growing inside the womb has a right to live. They don't get to choose death. So, which, I don't really want to skew the argument with this, but many people who have that stance, kind of hypocritical when many of them consider suicide to be a sin, or even medically assisted suicide to be a sin. But, and again, I don't want that to skew the argument, but okay, I don't know what was happening there. Are they gonna rev them? Let's wait and see. actually. Not ter... No. Okay, no, they were fine. Fine enough. Sorry whenever I make that comment on, like, whenever I make a comment on drag racers, I'm specifically talking about drag racers, not people with just loud engines. I don't care about the sound, I just care about the actual reckless, like, dangerous maneuvers through traffic. Traffic. My god. Dysphagia and fucking dysarthria are amazing in combination, you know? Okay, nope, that could have gone a lot worse. So, those are the arguments. Okay, the main arguments of that, or they also, in a sexist fashion, there are people who claim that it is the woman's purpose to carry the child and give birth to it and take care of it, or whatever gender they are that can give birth to a child. Anyone with a feminine reproductive system, in most regards. Okay, so you get the point. You get the point of the arguments for what they would call infanticide. But, okay, here is why I think it is logically it's an idiotic belief. Now, let me just first state that I think there are some people who, especially, and I'm not talking like to people who are more left-leaning with this, I'm talking to people who are more either centrist or right-leaning with this belief. There's the idea that a lot of abortion advocates or activists are people who are just in favor of the practice, that they actually like the practice, which, now let me explain. I'm going to say it from my own standpoint. I don't like the fact that I've got to run across here. Okay. Just gonna stop for a sec. Yep, there's the bridge. Okay. I don't like the fact that abortion has to exist, if you know what I mean. Obviously, okay. Obviously, I think if we had the magical power if people had the magical power to just snap their fingers and just get rid of any unplanned pregnancy, like at the flick of a wrist, and just have the fetus disappear with no possible pain, no repercussions on the actual person carrying the fetus, and none of that, yes, I guarantee you many people would just snap their fingers if they wanted to go through with giving the fetus up. But unfortunately, that's not reality. And yeah, see, I'm right back to where I started. That's not reality. That can't happen. And there has to be other methods of removing. Well, there needs. Okay. It is a human right for everyone on this planet who is sexually active to be able to engage in sexual activity. It is a human right to explore their bodies and have bodily autonomy with that. And be able to relax and have intimate relations in that regard with anyone they so choose to have it with, within certain limitations, obviously, as I've stated before. But you get the point I'm trying to make. Between consenting individuals who are either teenagers of the same age or adults, and if they're younger adults, close to the same age from what I would consider being more beneficial, or just adults in general. I'm not going to be able to get around that. Hold on one second. Alright. Got around that. So, what I was saying was, it's a human right to engage in sexual activity if they are sexual in some way, and they're not asexual. And not only do I think, now obviously I don't think just because it's a legal right that you should do it, but I feel, from my moral stance, that there is nothing wrong with that. It is healthy in many regards, obviously in moderation, to engage romantically, sexually, platonically, sexually, in some form of work, in entertainment, with things like pornography, strip work, prostitution, all things of the sort. I believe it can be done well and can actually be healthy for you. Got it out of the way. I was going in the bike lane. So, yes, people should feel free to do it. And there's nothing wrong with doing it, from my stance. And on top of that, so basically my stance for that, there's nothing wrong with showing affection for someone in that way, and they should have the right to as well. And that is a very interestingly designed motorbike. Very cool. Anyway, so aside from that, not only, well, not aside from that, but on top of that, not only is it a human right, and in many regards beneficial for you, from my stance, in moderation, having that belief, there are some people who are not capable of giving birth safely without it possibly hindering their body performance in some way, actually potentially causing severe disrupt to their physiological state or their reproductive health. Now, conservatives may say, then just don't have sex. If it's bad to have a child, why would you have sex? Well, because as I just stated, and I guess I'll put this in a bit more simple terms from my belief, human beings don't just exist to, human beings don't just exist to reproduce. And also, human beings don't just all have sex to reproduce. They have it for intimate fun as well. Or, if someone's more encroaching with it, or more self-centered, egotistical, in some regards, I guess, sociopathic or domineering, a whole variety of personality and behavior types and traits and disorders could determine your reason for why you're engaging in sex. Maybe for power, just to satisfy your own selfish tendencies, just purely for monetary gain, all that. There's a variety of reasons, but the main one is absolutely for certain, by basic science, human beings do not just exist to reproduce, and they don't just have sex to reproduce. Same goes for dolphins. And so, but again, they can engage in sexual activity and not want to have a child. Because, well, they don't feel they want one, feel they're not ready yet or responsible enough to care for one. And I'm not saying whether they are as an individual or not, just by their own stance, or they just feel they don't want one, as I just said. Or, as well as I was saying as well, that they can't physically, their body is not capable of actually handling it. It could do potential severe damage. Whereas just merely having sexual contact either can't or won't likely do severe physical damage or cause severe problems, or in some form it'll cause less than actually giving birth. They still wish to engage in it. So, there's that. And that is, in my opinion, the main reasons why abortion should be free and accessible, just like I feel all of healthcare should be free and accessible, and not driven by profit. And I know economically the whole world, every business in, oh God, that's my hand. Every business in an economy cannot afford to do that. Otherwise, an economy would collapse no matter what form it was. Well, no matter what economic system it was using, either capitalism, communism, socialism, fascism, feudalism, technically feudalism, that's a bit debatable. That's why I don't think feudalism works, but in many regards, every regard I don't think feudalism works. But anyway, actually, no, what am I saying? Yeah, I don't think feudalism works at all. Now I'm really thinking about it, but anyway. So, by those points, I feel that they have the right to have the procedure. And, okay, now here's the biggest factor out of all that. We can, fine, if you want it now, here's the thing, despite all that, do I think, like I just said, I think abortion is some fun, like, what apparently many conservatives and more regressive thinkers seem to believe, is that it's just like basically people are just using it as a contraceptive method, which is not true at all. I don't know, okay, one from the very definition of a contraceptive is to prevent potential pregnancy. So once you're pregnant, that's not a fucking contraceptive. So yeah. And then other than that, I'm gonna stop here and just admire the view, the sunset. Other than that, God, I am out of breath right now. But hey, at least that meal might have helped fatten me up for winter somewhat, hopefully. Anyway, It's not a contraceptive method. Or as I guess they may feel is a method of dodging accountability for your actions. Not in the slightest. If that's true, then you could say it for, well, technically, it being a human right, you could technically say that for any extremist religious group that commits, actually many religious groups have committed mass cultural genocide. Some have actually committed like physical genocide, like mass murder. So you could say that for any number of religious organizations. And should you be? Well, yes, in that regard, I think you should. It's not but for abortion, it's not dodging accountability, at least from my stance. Mainly because, like I said, human beings do not just exist to reproduce. And on top of that, do not just have sexual contact to reproduce. Oh, also, I should add on top of that, well, that's pretty. Look at the semi, just, it's ginormous compared to the rest of the cars. Yeah, I don't know why I found that cute. Sorry, my brain fog. Trying to gather my thoughts. Oh yes, I should also mention that you can actually get pregnant from methods other than intercourse. I think a lot of people who are anti-abortion really only think that if you have intercourse sexual relations, then, well, you should bear the burden. Or basically thinking that, or not even like taking away the fact that it may be thinking that you should raise a child. They also think that, well, you can really only get pregnant through intercourse, which is not, well, that's not true in the slightest whatsoever. You can, though it is rarer, it's not near as common, you can, this is a bit of sexology here, you can become pregnant through, well, oral sex and also appendage sex, I guess we'll call it appendage sex. What is the technical term for, or what is the sexological term for fingering and things of the sort, or hand jobs? That I want to look that up. What is the actual technical term for that? Anyway, you can, if, okay, let's say someone with masculine genitalia is able to produce sperm, semen, and while they are engaging in sexual contact with someone with feminine reproductive system who can become pregnant, they're not, but they're not engaging in intercourse sex. They are engaging in oral and limb sex, basically. So, like, blowjobs, hand jobs, eating a person out, rubbing, anything of the sort. Like, you get the picture I'm trying to paint, basically. But sperm can actually, during all this, say if they've done multiple rounds and the person with masculine genitalia has climaxed, or come at a certain point, that, and it's on their hands or in their mouth, sperm can actually, at points, even though it does dry up, when it's not on a wet surface, for most often, when it's exited the actual testes, or just the genitalia, where it's harbored in, most often, the testicles, it usually just dries up when it's not harbored within them. So, because they like, sperm incubates in a cool climate. Now, and wet climate, for the most part, or the solution that it's in is semen. There's a difference between sperm and semen. Semen is the actual fluid that contains the sperm, houses it, and keeps it alive. So, anyway, but there are chances that the sperm can survive on your appendages or in your mouth or somewhere on your face in some quantity. And it only takes oh god, that voice crack. It only takes one sperm cell, one tiny little one that you can't see it with the naked eye. So yeah, just one tiny one to make its way to a fertilized egg within the feminine reproductive system in the ovaries to then, form the fetus, to actually mesh with the egg and start growing the fetal cell as it moves downward from the fallopian tube into the lining of the womb. So it only takes one. And that there have been cases where it happens that from non-intercourse sex, someone has gotten pregnant. That has happened. So, hell, there was even an incident. I remember this one story that was confirmed to be true. There was a pool party going on, and it consisted of mainly men and women. It was either a high school or college party, and basically, one guy got a little excited. I don't know why, but they were jerking off in the pool, or they just prematurely ejaculated some form of stimulation to the genitalia. Somehow the sperm from the dude's dick ended up impregnating at least 4 women there. At least 4. Just from being in the pool. Now, it must have been a very cold temperature pool, I'd assuming, if that was the case. And if not, then that's just that's wonderfully baffling. Well, it's not wonderful. That's baffling to science. So that would have been a clear need for an abortion procedure. Now, so there's that element to it. Now, but now here's the other element I was talking about. So basically, I don't think most conservatives get that, or not, just people who are more philosophically leaning to the right, or are on the alt-right. And I guess, you can make the argument, yes, there are definitely people who are on the alt-left that believe this, but most people don't believe this who are left-leaning. That people see it, like a lot of people who are more religiously conservative see people who are for abortion or have a firm stance on being able to get an abortion, or like, so you just love abortion, you love being able to rip fetal cells out of feminine genitalia or something of the sort, so that you can just bang as much as you want. No, that's not what the stance is. Yes, we do have a right, and it is good in many of our opinions to engage in sexual contact if you are sexual. But we're not yes, obviously if someone is in a dire need, and also you gotta remember people, especially in the world we live in today, with this shitty capitalist system that's infected, in my opinion, every corner of this globe. Or at least, well, fine, whether or not capitalism can potentially work well. The way it's going for most of the world now, it doesn't. People are struggling. They have the right to engage in intimacy, and they can't afford a child, though. They can't afford it. Financially, it would devastate them. And they would kill them and the child, eventually, if they just fucking starved from lack of food or died of thirst. From lack of being able to buy water, or of infection, not being able to buy basic necessities for the child. My phone is dying, so I'm trying to wrap this up. I'm not going to be able to get to the other two things I mentioned. I'll just, I guess, briefly say them. So, A, they might not be able to afford it. And just, okay, we know abortion is a very sensitive, delicate procedure to the woman or person who has to go through that procedure. It's not like, yes, they may, obviously, if someone finds out that they are pregnant unexpectedly and are very scared and anxious about that being the truth, because they know that they either don't want to have it, they don't want to have the child, or they can't afford it, or their body can't physically take it. Even so, yes, you may be happy. Many, I assume you'd be happy, like, yay, I'd be able to get access to professional medical care for an abortion. That's hoping that the doctor is professional and not a complete Nimrod. But, well, all you can do at that point is basically just hope that the doctor knows what they're doing, and is well trained and well knowledgeable in the situation. But anyway, but even then, yes, you may be happy that you can get it, but you're not most likely, or at least from what I've seen, I'm sure there are people who are, but overall I'd say you're not going to, well, not even from what I've heard women obviously specifically speak on this, and from my own research, from their opinions, I know that you're not jumping for joy like, oh yes, I can get to have a tube shoved up my vaginal area and have a fetal cell sucked out of my my orifices. Oh, yippee. No, that's not what most people feel. And even if they did, they still have the right to get it done, at least in my stance, from everything I just listed before. But I'm just saying, like, from that belief that it's somehow, like, seen as some sort of prideful thing, there's nothing shameful about it, at least from my stance on it. But you get what I'm trying to say. Like, most people are not jumping for joy that they get to have a highly invasive surgical procedure done. Not even just for abortion, no matter what it is. Yes, you're happy that you're getting a life-saving treatment or procedure done, but you're not happy that you have the thing in the first place and you have to have something altered on your physical form. Like, for example, this is another thing that conservatives, or like people who are more conservative leaning, tend to think in terms of transgenderism or sex reassignment surgery, is that that it's just seen as some fun, like, dress up thing. Well, no, I guarantee you, most people who go through the transition have what I've described before as gender dysphoria, a feeling of heavy uncomfortability or uncomfortableness with not just being assigned a gender, like identity at birth or your gender expression, but your physical gender, what you were born as. It's a heavy discomfort, and it can be severely debilitating to people. And there are points where antidepressants will not do the work for the person. So they go through with the procedure, and there are those who are happy with how it turned out, and there are those who aren't and want to detransition, which I also think they should be readily available surgical procedures to detransition from going through a sex reassignment surgery or going through hormone changing therapy or hormone altering your hormones. But I guarantee you, those with gender dysphoria, if they could just snap their fingers, like I said, and be whatever gender they want to be, I guarantee you they would, just without any invasive procedures like that. They would just, boom, fixed. I don't have to go through this turbulent procedure. So, point being with that is, oh, and before my phone dies, the most ultimate okay, even if after everything I said, and I'm going to try and say this quick, even after everything I've said, everything I just listed out, if you want, fine, I could, maybe, the slightest bit of me, especially with me questioning my morals now, well, heavily questioning them, I've questioned this before in the past, but this specific topic and others, but whatever, say that I have the slightest doubt with everything I just said about abortion being legalized for that. Fine, I'll bite. But there is, at least logically to me, no fucking way possible that you can justify banning abortion for sexual assault. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. Every argument I hear, it falls flat, or the person doesn't even answer the question. They just go over all the reasons why it's a sin against God, or that it's just getting out of responsibility. No. Unwilling sexual encounter, rape, physical rape. There is no way you can justify it. The person, because unlike all the other scenarios I listed, the person did not consent to the act. And that this is why I hate so much of sex education. People think that, oh, well, yeah, what if they consented to, like, do, if they were more into this fetish, like rape play or something, which I personally hate, but if they should have the right to do that if they want. Well, okay, either way, here's the actual, well, the property of that. It's still not actual rape. It's a scenario that they're acting out for sexual arousal. It's still consentful. Once something is not consentful, it is rape. When it is consentful, it is not rape. Once somebody says to stop, it is rape. If they're not saying to stop, it is rape. Or if they're unconscious while something is happening, it is rape. If they're conscious and knowledgeable of what is happening, they know what is happening, it is not rape. You cannot justify it. There is no way to justify it. If they did not willingly choose to have that sperm cell implanted in them. Okay, that's all I'll say for this. My phone's gonna die. That was my first little tour of Gatineau, Quebec. There'll be more to come when I travel over here. I'm gonna head back into Ottawa now. This was a beautiful sunset. I want to try and find a place to charge my phone. I don't know if I'll head back into the Orleans district tonight or in the morning. I'll just find a shady spot to sleep for the night. Okay. Yeah, I won't mention the other two things right now because it'll take me a sec to think about it. But yeah, okay. See ya. Bye-bye. Yep, inevitably decided to go all the way back into the Orleans district. So yeah, I got all the way back here. Just quickly though, one last point I wanted to make about abortion, that I didn't think of in time before my phone died on the bridge. Another reason should absolutely, at least in my logical sense of morality, be a person's choice to have a fetus aborted is because it is cells, and it is, if you're going to even count it as a living thing, which again, I said fine to certain arguments about after a certain trimester technically being counted as a living thing. The fetus. It's growing inside a person. It's not a separate entity. At least if in the argument for like people trying to claim infanticide, that the whole argument, instead of the argument being about bodily autonomy, that should be whether the fetus is a person, a human being or not. Well, technically, yes, actually, in that regard, I could agree that half of the conversation should be, or half of the argument should be about is it a person? Also bodily autonomy, but is it a person or not? I would regard it as no. Not because it's incapable of critical thought yet, or anything of the sort, or having a persona or anything like that, but because it is growing within another human being. It is being formed within the womb. And in the uteral lining. Anyway, so that's another point why I think it should be their choice to have it removed. It's growing within them, along with all the other points I made. And people would say, well, how can you discount, if it were to be a living thing, how could you justify still killing it even though it is growing in there? Well, okay. For those people who say that, I've already just explained why I think that should be their choice, coupled with that, along with everything else I said earlier. And if you are saying that you yourself should not be taking medications to kill off contagious viruses that you contract or parasitic infections, and no, don't take my hand is shaky. Don't take my words out of context there. I am not calling a unborn fetus a parasite by any means, or a virus, so don't think that. But so I already have a problem with killing living things. Unfortunately, sometimes that needs to happen. Yes, and though obviously I participate in taking medication to kill off any bacterium or viral infection that could be within my body when I contract one. Obviously, it's sad that, well, they have to die. Yes, they are living things too, but they are damaging your body in some form or another. They're damaging your physiological state. So if you are preaching that, then I think, well, then you really shouldn't be taking medications to help combat infections in that sense, bacterial or viral infections or parasitic infections. Let's, if you want, remain morally consistent with your beliefs. Okay, yeah. Anyway,